Nintendo, a titan in the gaming industry, and one of the few to care so much about multiplayer, pulling off 4-player packs while Sony and Sega were stuck with 2. Nintendo multiplayer games are a joy to play. They truly understand how to balance games under these circumstances, and if there's one multiplayer series that has been well regarded and known for its infinite amounts of fun, it would probably be Mario Kart, or Super Smash Brothers. Or even Mario Golf. Only Toadstool Tour though. Nah. The main reason we're here to talk for it is because this video is all about Mario Party. The first 3 at least, since it kind of goes together well with the upcoming game. Mario Party is a virtual board party game that up to 4 players can join in and play. Well known for their jam-packed modes, joyous or infuriating elements of design, the toss around and strategic items, and most importantly, the most known thing about the series and the reason why it's one of the top selling multiplayer games in the world and in its genre, the packed in minigames. Today, we'll be diving in and uncovering the most basic of understanding for Mario Party that has been done to death already, in my experience with the series, starting with the first 3 on the Nintendo 64. The start of a new series within the franchise, Mario Party released in 1998 in Japan and 1999 in the West. The game opens with Mario and pals arguing about who has the biggest schlong. Which one is the superstar, of course. I don't know what they exactly mean by that. Superstar in what? Either way, Toad gives his voice in that in order to know who the true superstar is, they must go through a series of tests via partying and taking psychedelics in order for their imagination to appear right in front of their eyes, thus beginning the party that is Mario Party. You start off in the Mushroom Village, an area with many different modes and options to choose from. You can mostly conduct business here, like buying things from the Mushroom Shop and Minigame House, tinkering with settings and tools in the Option House, or learning of your capitalist ventures at the Mushroom Bank. You can also sail down to the Minigame Island and partake in a mini-game-a-thon. But the main attraction here is the Warp Pipe, which brings you to the main adventure, or what we call it, Party Mode. Here, you are given a decision on how many turns you want to play, giving either 20 turns as light play, 35 turns as standard play, or 50 turns as full play, with only one of these options being remotely fun all the way through. How many players you want to play with, choosing your characters with up to 6 of the main Mario characters, although this was the first one, so I guess I'll have to give them a cut for that one, and choosing 6 playable boards, with it later upgrading to 8 as you play through the game. These boards are also based on how difficult they are, with a rating between 1 to 3 stars. Let me clearly say this, difficulty is not the term for boards, especially for a game like this. You see, since this was the first Mario Party, they didn't really have a one and only standard formula, as many stages either revolve around gimmicks or the board themselves as literal gimmicks. Complex could be a more strongly suited word, but honestly, Bowser's Magma Mountain is less complex than Peach's Birthday Cake or Luigi's Engine Room, in my humble opinion. Speaking of which, boards! Many people like to say that the minigames are the carriers of the Mario Party series, and although I do believe them to be necessities, I have much higher belief on boards playing the biggest factor in the series as they help keep everything together and interesting. Which is why 5 confirmed boards isn't enough, Nintendo! Each board is themed around each of the selectable characters and also follows a gimmick. Mario's Rainbow Castle, a simple linear pathway that works as a raceway kind of play. DK's Jungle Adventure, which is definitely the closest to how the latter Mario Party series would work the formula. Peach's Birthday Cake, a pretty normal board with a coin flip gimmick between going around in a circle or suffering Bowser's Great Cuisine. This is one of the boards I consider to be closest to Monopoly, as you can buy property here, and Bowser works as a kind of go-to-jail area. Yoshi's Tropical Island, which consists of 2 islands, fixed star transportation, and rigged border control. Wario's Battle Canyon only has 2 words to be said: anarchy and communism. With finally Luigi's Engine Room, being the only non-unlockable 3-star board, and also kind of sucking ass a bit. Later on as you progress through the game, 2 more later become unlockables, those being, spoiler alert, Bowser's Magma Mountain and Eternal Star. These two also kind of suck, but if I had to choose between Eternal Star or Wario's Battle Canyon, I'd gladly enjoy teleporting to Bowser and getting a star taken away from me. Holy fuck! Bowser was fucking brutal in this game. Anyways, all boards have small round points known as spaces, with each serving a different purpose. Blue gives out coins, red takes coins. Happening possibly or possibly doesn't make an event occur. Minigame starts a one-player game for the person who landed on it. Mushroom roll either a normal mushroom, which gives you an extra roll, or a purple mushroom, which causes you to lose a turn. Chance starts up chance time, and Bowser's space is Bowser's Prima Nocta, with multiple possible results that can either screw you over or screw others over entirely. There are also pass-by areas that don't count towards your spacewalk count thingy. These include the Koopa space, a kind of Monopoly Go-like space where you collect coins, a Boo space, which allows you to finesse coins for free or a star for 50 coins from any other character, and a Star space, where you can buy a star for 20 coins. Also, depending on the board, some aren't on a fixed location, meaning that when you buy one, it moves to a different spot on the board, leaving behind a chance time. I have no idea what was going through the developers' minds when deciding that non-fixed star locations should leave chance time spaces behind. Sure, it may not be that troublesome on some boards, but others like Bowser's Magma Mountain and Eternal Star with this gimmick makes it infuriating and straight up unenjoyable sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I love me a chance time space. It's a Hail Mary-esque design that could possibly change up the entire course of the game if successful. But making them take up more spaces over time, thus making them more common, is just a little too unforgiving and a complete waste. Thank Lord this feature never returns after this game. Otherwise, most of these spaces become the basics for Mario parties. Although the mushroom space would be revamped into a more pronounced and strategic item shop, and although the minigame space would reappear every once in a while, its format in this game being one-player minigames would thankfully never, ever return again. Honestly though, I do find a few of these one-player minigames kind of fun. Teetering Towers, Ghost Guest, and Memory Match comes to mind the most, but I can see why nobody was a fan of these. They're just a slog to go through, especially for the 3 players sitting back having to watch through it all. Speaking of which, minigames! I'm not going to talk about every minigame here, so I'll talk about both the more memorable and notoriable ones. I already mentioned about one-player minigames, so I'll quickly dash about the other minigame formats. 4-player minigames. All 4 go up against each other until one wins or a few survive, although most notably Running of the Bulb and Keep Away actually somewhat require all 4 to work together in order to achieve the same goal. These games are the highlights of Mario Party. Bumper Balls, Shy Guy Says, Mushroom Mix-Up, Bombs Away, Hot Rope Jump, among even more are some ultimate classics. 1 versus 3 minigames, where it's one who usually has a stronger advantage against 3 of the other characters, who have to work together to overcome the one-player advantage. These are definitely hit or miss, more so leaning on miss. Bowl Over and Coin Shower Flower are fine, and Coin Block Bash is... And then you have stuff like Tightrope Treachery, Pipe Maze, Crane Game, or medieval torture techniques like Paddle Battle and Tug of War, but we'll get to those later! Overall, they fall flat, and this is definitely the worst bunch of them out of all the games. Funny considering some of these were brought back in the sequel and turned out even better, so definitely on Nintendo. Or Hudson, I don't know. Finally is 2 versus 2 minigames, or otherwise team minigames. Most of these are pretty good, but there is not a lot in this section. Yeah, somehow 1 versus 3 minigames were on the top priority of minigame formats before 2 versus 2s. Bobsled Run, Bomb Skip Ball, Desert Dash, and Handcar Havoc are pretty good. And then you have...
Start!
However, one of the most infamous things compared to every other Mario Party was the control design for some of the few minigames. That being... stick rotation. Games like Pedal Power, Tug of War, Paddle Battle, Castaways, and... all had one thing in common. rotating the stick is a neat and fulfilling movement. Of course, since rotating with the thumb is slow, the most optimal option is using the palm of your hands, and since the N64 analog stick is not the most comfortable design in the world, bruises, tears, and blisters gave Nintendo a run for their money. Basically, parents got mad, attorneys got involved, and Nintendo got in some hot water but eventually resolved it. One of the ways through this is staying to always use the thumb for these kind of minigames. Even though some of these are impossible to beat without the speed boost using the palm of your hand, it wouldn't matter by the end of the day, as they would later be removed following the second game and wouldn't come back on a console game ever again. Nope. Nothing at all would ever come back. Mario Party also consists of a few other modes. Stuff like the Option House and Minigame House are all basic stuff for Mario Party. The Mushroom Shop allows you to buy items, options, or boards. The Mushroom Bank allows you to tinker with some of these items for more enlightened board experiences, or you can check how many coins and stars you have. Finally, the Raft brings you to the Minigame Island, which is basically the one-player mode of this game. You travel between worlds and levels, playing each and every minigame and dueling against Toad in the final level of Slot Car Derby. All just for a special bumper ball map. Neat. And that's Mario Party the First. Had a lot going for it, and honestly it's kind of neat in its own way, but I would probably never play this one unless me and my friends are looking for new torture techniques, or I am in hell and I'm forced to play through this with accompanying buddies Muammar Gaddafi, Joseph Stalin, and Kim Jong-il. Fun. The game was met with lukewarm reception by consumers, but pretty low by critics. Game Informer especially left some nasty reviews about it, which got Nintendo to send them the only thing that is basically a cease and desist towards reviewers, a sarcastic response. TLDR, it's okay. The overall gameplay was okay. Some of the boards were hit or miss. Most of the minigames were hit or miss. Although after playing the sequel, they feel more leaning towards miss. The music is definitely good and catchy, I'll give it that. Overall, this section was a lot more explanatory compared to the upcoming ones, but that mostly has to do with it being the first game and me and my friends not really having a lot of fun with this title. I will be talking about the other ones more favorably since it will lean towards my personal experience. So, buck up! Have you ever wondered what a masterpiece would look like? Well, look no further than the sequel to one of the worst Mario parties, Mario Party 2. This game is basically the final, complete draft of the first Mario Party, and basically patches and fixes everything wrong with the first one to create this. A masterpiece that basically sets up the rest of the series in the right path. Mario Party 2 basically starts off in a similar way to the first. All 6 main characters are back at each other's throats on deciding who has the most whose name should be on their newly built foundation, Mario Land. Hey, wait a minute. Listen, it'll come out eventually. It'll come eventually after a huge argument. Toad decides that whoever can defeat Bowser is the true owner of the land after it was found that he was plotting some devious licks behind them. Thus, adventure starts off again. This time, the menu is much more limited, but more user-friendly, and I definitely like it like this. Everything is just easy to go around and get to, and nothing feels too complicated to mess around with. Of course, there's an option area called the laboratory where you can fingle around with your records, data, and music. You can unlock the credits here later. There's another area called Minigame Land, but we'll talk about that later. And the main area. Toad with his giant sign of all the boards. 5 starters, 1 unlockable after you played all the boards once. Which is so much better than how Mario Party 1 did it. I mean, 100 fucking stars just to get Eternal Star. What a sham! After you choose your board, you can enter adventure once again by running through a pipe, choosing the number of players, what characters you want to play, how many turns, and a newly implemented bonus option, which was mandatory at the end of every game in the first one. Once that's done, we reach the main game itself. Since we're on the topic of boards, let's dive deep on all of these boards. Mario Party 2 has, in my very humble opinion, the greatest board set of all of the Mario Party series. All boards have their own unique identity, and their overall designs are some of the greatest coming from a party game. Any gimmick they have is also not bad in any way possible, barring a very, very few selected, or just one, gimmick. Generally, I separate boards into two categories for this game, the Big Four and the Minor Two. I'll start off with the Minor Two, more specifically, the least liked one out of them all, Mystery Land. This board is basically a one-up version of Wario's Battle Canyon, and considering my opinion on that board, you should understand the rest. It's not a bad board, but compared to the others, it's definitely not up to them by a long stretch. The music is also pretty mess. Sorry, I had to throw that in there! If I had to say one good thing about this board, it's the whole Shy Guy's Curse thing being a repurposed poison mushroom, and also Moai. Our next board is Pirate Land, the first board and ranked on a difficulty of 1 star. Yeah, I don't know why they even brought this back. Really unnecessary and still doesn't have a fitting context. Since this is a beginner's board, I'll give it some slack for its simplistic design and layout, although I do think it's a good layout for a beginner's board. It's basically a revamped Yoshi's Tropical Island. 3 total islands separated by 2 long bridges, with 2 shorter ones on the left island's southern side. You can also reach towards the southern left island via landing on a blue space near a dock, where Sushi will come and swim you across. However, if you choose not to and cross the bridge, then you'll have to watch out for pirate ships blowing cannons at you, which brings you to the start spot. Not only that, but if you happen to cross the bridge and want to get more exploratory with the island or take shortcuts, you'll have to pay thwomps of fee to get through, much like the system from, you guessed it, Yoshi's Tropical Island. Personally, I think this is a bit too much for a beginner's board. Maybe get rid of the thwomps or make the cannon send you at the beginning of the bridge or a random spot around the island you were getting off. Although I guess the fact the thwomps are only blocking shortcuts in exploratory areas is not as bad as them blocking the bridge from the first game. So, otherwise this board is a pretty good board overall. I just don't think it has a lot going for it compared to the main 4, but I will admit I'd play on this board over Mystery Land. Speaking of, let's get to those boards and explain why they are so fantastic. None of these are really put in particular order, so I'll scroll through each of them by their placement on the board sign. Western Land, a board designed around the hootin' and tootin' cowboy eras of imaginative Western media. Everyone here is the deputy of this fantastic board in order to catch the robber Bowser, or Bowser the Brash. It's a simple board with a simple attraction and sets of space. Nothing feels like too much, and it feels like you can travel pretty well around this board even with mid-rolls, especially with the help of Steamer, who can get you from one part of the board to the other with a simple 5-coin tax and a good dice roll. Also, anyone in the path of the train will get knocked back to start. This may sound annoying, however, it only occurs if you're in the pathway from one of the leading stations, regardless if it's moved by a player or happening space. And although the board is a sea of spaces on the rails, there's many opening spots you can get into in case you feel like something might happen. It's overall an easy board to navigate through, each area holding something unique, with a dangerous yet easy to avoid attraction, and it also has a hootenanny. And let me tell you, everyone here loves a hootenanny. Spaceland, where the gang dress up as cosmonauts and venture the vastness of our future. Or at least what every billionaire says will be our future. The main design here is the multitude of paths and junctions there are to go through, some of which pass through the middle, which holds a countdown for Black Hole Bowser. I mean, to be fair, there really wasn't a reference image at the time, so I'll let it pass. Once this timer reaches 0, Bowser will shoot his Bowser coin beam, and if you're caught in it, all of your coins belong to him. This seems like a great concept, but I'll admit it is slightly held back since it always goes in one direction in the same pathway. But that's probably for the better. Still a good gimmick nonetheless. The other gimmick are cruisers and patrols. Cruisers usually occur when you land on a happening space and push you back to the beginning of the pathway. However, if you pay a Sniffit patrol to look out for them, they'll drag the chase on for an extended pathway. This can be used for both your benefit or to push your friends away from a specific area you don't want them to reach, like a star. I think this gimmick is really good as it doesn't push you too far away unless you bribe the bastards in line, and it can be used strategically. Also, it's a board in space. Who doesn't love that? Horrorland, generally considered by many to be one of the best boards in the Mario Party series, is the first 3-star board in the game and last non-unlockable board in the game. This board is perfect for many reasons. Boos are all different throughout this map. Ones in a clear pathway are only available at night, while ones hidden on parts of the map are available during the day. This allows great strategizing between one boo and another, potentially running into two boos and gaining good profits out of it. One other is the big boo, which only appears at night. With triple the coins, you can steal coins or stars from all players and possibly triple your entire profit. The other gimmick, like I briefly said, is the day and night gimmick. A gimmick that was so perfect, Nintendo built the entirety of Mario Party 6 off of it. This gimmick essentially keeps a balance throughout the whole board, and since it can be changed via happening spaces, it also counters the possibility of boos being abused in a single turn. Some stuff may also cost more or less depending on if it's day or night, like the warp path, the shop, and womps. Some more specific nighttime events may occur, like the fire camp dance, Kamek's darkness lamp, and of course, Big Boo. Finally, this board is big, like not only in size, but the amount of spaces on it. And I say the way the spaces and conjunctions are put make it a perfectly balanced, as strategy is already a requirement for this board in order to win. Decision making gives it even more thought put into it and what paths you're willing to try and gain or risk for. Also, graveyard hunting is a great pastime. Glad this board made a return. Finally, one of the best boards in not only Mario Party 2, but in all of the Mario Party games. Board design at its absolute peak, it's Bowser Land, baby! Designing 4 has covered this board extensively in one of their fantastic videos, so I won't go too deep into it, but this board is just fantastic. The 4-square design along with inner conjunctions allows for wise decision making and perfect strategies, the reverse bank system and its punishment for landing on it, the non-inner happening spaces transporting you to another part of the board, the strategic placings of boo, item shops, and doorways, the blooper carousel, the Bowser Parade and its use to manipulate it in your favor, along with the punishment it dishes out to anyone who dares be in its way, the Bowser suit, among other items that could be used in advantage on this board compared to other— Hey, wait, items! Items make their first appearance in this game, along with the item shop and item space, which in a way replaces mushroom and minigame spaces. Items like mushroom, golden mushroom, skeleton key, plunder chest, dueling glove, warp block, and magic lamp are usually available in all of these, although some may be more limited than others. Others like the Boo Bell, Bowser suit, and Bowser Bomb are only available on the item space or through the Baby Bowser shopkeeper. This ability is probably the greatest addition to all of Mario Party, as it allows creativity, strategy, and can help both knowledgeable and for fun types of players. Other things include new spaces, which I already mentioned, the item space. There is also the bank space, which makes you put in coins when you pass by and gives you them when you land on it, and the new addition of the battle space and battle minigames. We'll dive more into battle minigames later, but overall the battle space is usually a game of stakes where each player forks over a given amount of coins to this army Goomba. From there, a minigame is chosen and they can win either a high amount, below average amount, or nothing if they win or lose the battle minigame. I kind of like this addition, and I think it really brings the intensity of Mario Party up to 11. Let me see, anything else that gives this game its worthiness of holding masterpiece in its title? Oh, of course! The minigames. Yes, minigames return in full glory as all but the one-player format makes a return, along with the addition of battle, item, and duel minigames. These all can be accessed on specific board events or places around minigame land. I already mentioned the premise of the battle space, but the battle minigames are more or less intenser 4-player games. Many of these games cannot end in a tie, and thus usually revolve around one winner taking it all. Games like Day at the Races, Hot Ba-Bomb, and the most infamous and notable of them all, Bowser's Big Blast, revolve around this concept of only one true winner. Item minigames are essentially the one-player minigames of this game, but there isn't exactly a losing scenario, as you'll gain an item regardless of what happens. Well, unless you just don't try. And finally, duel minigames, which only happen on the last 5 turns by landing on the same space or getting a dueling glove, are board-specific, short one-on-one games between 2 players for high stakes, being coins in this game. Most of these are usually pretty good to really tense, and then you have something like Rock Paper Mario. Even then, there are still a multitude of great minigames included like Shell Shocked, Toad in a Box, Roll Call, Honeycomb Havoc, Dizzy Dancing, Look Away, Shock Drop and Roll, Lights Out, Destruction Duet. Hell, many of the minigames are returns from Mario Party, and although that may sound bad, They are actually improved super well in a way that puts the originals to shame, like Hot Rope Jump, giving it an endless jump limit, or Bombs Away with more cannonballs and missiles along with a more shaky island causing the intensity to soar through the roof, or Shy Guy Says with more understandable timing and crazier mix-ups, or Bumper Ball and Slot Car Derby with different stages and designs. Hell, even ones with bare landing changes like Platform Peril, Bobsled Run, and Dungeon Dash are still perfect with their aesthetic changes. That's how you make a good Mario Party. Although this game can be seen and probably fits more as an upgraded Mario Party 1, I think it works well enough to give it its own identity. So many simple concepts and improvements put into this single game that Mario Party 1 so desperately needed that it ended up working for the better. Unless you're a masochist or need to use a quick torture method, there's quite literally no reason to pick up the first game. The second game is quite literally the definitive Mario Party. And take that as you will, because no other game in the series would ever jump this hard of an improvement again. Enough so to change the entire formula of it. Now, let's talk about the other one. Mario Party 3 is also a pretty damn good Mario Party game. The creative differences and additions to this game are so vastly different compared to how Mario Party 2 did it with Mario Party 1, it doesn't even feel like a follow-up in a way, at least in my convoluted mindset. The differences in almost everything between this and Mario Party 2 are so vast, it makes me wonder if they were working on this on the side while also working on the sequel. Anyways, Mario Party 3 would be the last Mario Party on the Nintendo 64 and the first one to release in the new millennium. This coincides with the birth of the Millennium Star, a star that only appears once every 1,000 years. It decides to spin out of orbit and crash into the Mushroom Kingdom while Mario's just chillin', and it makes him and all of his friends small before throwing them into a toy box. God, what a dick. From here you must collect 7 of the Mischief Stamps, and that's where the story ends for me. Sorry, but when I want to play Mario Party, I play it just for everything but the story mode. Don't get me wrong, a story mode in Mario Party is an interesting concept, and it did okay for its starter. It's just not for me. I play Mario Party for a party, not a goddamn bedtime story. And before you ask, oh, okay buddy then, how are you gonna unlock everything? My friend, it's called we do a bit of game sharking. With this, Mario Party 3 is completely different compared to the first two instead of just being an upgrade of an upgrade. It's kind of like the jump from Super Mario Bros. To the Lost Levels, those being the first two, to Super Mario Bros. 3. Not the greatest comparison considering how Lost Levels is treated, but you get my point. Boards are completely original and new. No minigames have returned from past games, but all minigames are completely new. Party and story mode are separated. Some events and spaces have been redefined, and finally, new additional stuff overall, like additional turns, settings, and most notably, characters. Meet Waluigi and Daisy, two characters most known for being brought in and revived in a tennis game. This bumps the game from the average 6 main characters to finally 8. Took them long enough. This game also adds the ability to keep minigames the moment you get them from the roulette, which was probably the greatest decision since Vasily's vote in the submarine. Seriously, it took them this long to make this a feature. Luckily, this would be a continuous feature from every game here on. When going through party mode, you're given multiple modes. Battle Royale, minigame mode, which includes the minigame sets, Battle Room and Game Guys Room, and Duel mode, which won't get covered a lot because it makes more sense if the story mode was covered with it, and I don't enjoy it, like, at all. Sorry. You can also go into the castle to tinker with settings, sounds, and shit, and if you save the Battle Royale game and your game ends early or something occurs, a cannon will appear on the castle grounds which will launch you back to the turn you last saved in that game. Now enough of this tiny details and shit, let's get into the reason why I even play Mario Party 3. The Battle Royale. We're introduced to Tumble in this mode who helps configure our settings, starting with how many players we want, what characters you want to play, with Waluigi and Daisy already being starters here, a new handicap option in case your friends are scrubs, the option to choose any board, with 5 starters and 1 unlockable, how many turns you want to do, with a new custom ability that goes up by 5 starting from 10, and a bonus option. After that we hop through the game, or for us, the boards. The first and least difficult board at 1 star is Chilly Waters. As a long-living Floridian known for being in a hot, humid climate of this swampy wasteland, I hold a personal grudge in that I'm not the biggest fan of this board. The big ice rink in the middle is a bitch and a half to deal with, especially during a race to a star where all of you are going the same pathway, and also the random chance of slipping on the ice ramps, which is dumb. Another thing is the action time event, which are events specified to each board, whether it's passing by something or landing on a happening space. In this case, a giant snowball will be thrown at you, with you deciding to avoid it by either jumping over it or letting it chase behind you, whether because you missed or for strategic purposes. Overall, I think this board is just kinda generic. It's a nice looking board and the action time isn't hard or anything, but the ice rink in the middle does kinda bring the likeness down by some. Well, at least the music is amazing. Next is Deep Bloober Sea, and God, this board antagonizes me to the depths of the Mariana Trench. Not only do you have to play Sushi's version of the lottery from Peach's birthday cake, you also have to be very careful passing by the baby blooper, because the moment you even land on one of the happening spaces, you fucked yourself over. Yes, I've heard you could use it to your advantage if the missile throws you on the wrong side of the lane, but it's such a situational advantage that I still wouldn't change my mind about this board. I do kind of like the thing with the anglerfish spinning you to another part of the board, although it's really fucking hard to mash sometimes, but that could just be my controller. And also the fact it takes up 6 spaces. Like, I can roll with the occasional 2 to 3, maybe 4 spots, but Jesus Christ is it bothersome, especially if you're getting bad rolls. Probably one of my lesser played boards, but I still pick it over something like Chili Waters, because at least the aesthetic is enough for me. Also, the music is just... ugh, lovely. Spiny Desert. Now, usually I'm not a fan of desert stuff unless it's in real life, but this board, man, it's just too good. The main board is really big. Many of the valuable stuff is either in the circle areas or behind doorways. The circle area is a walking landmine on both sides, as landing on a happening space will get you sucked up by quicksand, meaning this can be used for quicker access across the board or strategic purposes like making sure any opponents don't reach a nearby star. The action time on this board is probably the most useless one in my opinion, as you simply have to jump over cactuses to get to this part of the left side of the board, which I don't find necessary, as using one of the circle areas or just waltzing around the board with good items can get you there quickly. But at least if you don't feel like crossing the cactuses, they do send you to other parts of the board. Finally, the biggest gimmick on this board is the Star Mirage, where one of the stars is the real deal while the other is a fakester. It takes that one idea from Bowser's Options in Mario Party 2 and revolves around that, although you don't get a punishment for passing by the fake one besides a decline in morale. This is also the first board to feature a dark side of the map, which would be reused for Woody Woods and kind of Creepy Cavern. Also, the music is just worthy of a law. Woody Woods is actually kind of good. I kind of like the whole turn conjunction gimmick they had. Woody and Waluigi are pretty cool. I do like that most of the items here can be used to a good advantage, although I think some of them are a bit too good. Namely, the upper right corner with the boost space and item shop, along with an item space like literally 1-to-1 up on each other. Reverse mushroom here is kind of broken if you roll well every time, but the fact that dices don't work like that makes it pretty unlikely, and it shouldn't be that much of a holdback for everyone else. Overall, I can see its inclusion in the new game, even if I do believe there to be better boards in here. Creepy Caverns is a fine board, but I probably would still play most of the other boards over it, even Deep Bloober Sea if I'm in a good mood. The main guys here are Womps and Thwomps, by the way I like that little Mario Party 2 reference, with a big womp that lies between the two-sided boards. I am not a big fan of this guy. I wish it would have been a simple coin payment to get him to turn over instead of requiring an item, but at least the happening spaces make him get off his lazy ass and flip to the other side. The minecart action time is pretty cool, and it's a good, easy way to get across the board. Although the ability to push anyone along with you to the other side if they're in your way is a bit of an annoyance. It's like as if, since this is the first 3-star board, they should have made you get hit by it and sent back to the start instead, since it's a more difficult board. God, Nintendo, it's not even that hard of an idea. You used it before. This is probably one of the very few boards in the entire series that not only has near infinite replay value, but also the one where me and my friends could go for 50 turns on, and not just as a one-time thing. Meet Waluigi's Island, my friends and followers. Unlocked after completing the story mode, Waluigi's Island is the last board in Mario Party 3 and the most difficult board along with Creepy Cavern. Full of the most random bullshit possible, Waluigi's Island truly represents the power and personality of how Waluigi is. The little hints that the island was taken over from Luigi, the construction and destruction created by the worshipping piranha plants, a circle area full of dynamite that can take all your coins, an action time gear that takes you to different parts of the island either absolutely in or out of your control, a trap set full of pipes and pit holes that take you back to the very beginning, and of course, the Island of Anarchy, where every space changes to a completely different one on every single turn. And it's not like the star position is on safe routes. Oh no, my friends. These things are placed in the shittiest spots possible. Sometimes near a Bowser space, in the dynamite area, the pathway after Boo, and the traps. Hell, it even has 2 possible spots on the Island of Anarchy. I don't want to dive too much into this board since I want to look at it more in depth sometimes later. But you can see why some people either absolutely love this board or despise it like it came from the 10th circle of hell. Regardless of what you say, you gotta at least admit, by the end of the day, that anarchy always topples democracy. Okay, let's just get through this. Although there isn't a whole lot of new spaces, many old ones did get revamped. Item Space now has a set of item minigames that aren't board specific anymore. They may also just be visited by Toad or Baby Bowser, who will ask a variety of questions in which they'll either give you nothing or fill your whole inventory with items. Battle Space now has a beginning roulette instead of just being random. Chance Time Space has been revamped in a way, although it does work in a similar fashion to the first 2 games, and the new addition, the Game Guy Space, a space where gambling addictions begin, and possibly why this game will not get a re-release anytime soon. You play through 1 out of 4 Game Guy games in order to go big or go home. Most of the time you'll probably be going home. But when you do win, it's a good way of not only getting huge amounts of moolah, but also boosting yourself for the coin star. New items have been thrown into the game, by far being one of the best Mario Party item sets ever, only being rivaled between 6 and 7. All but Bowser Bomb makes a return from Mario Party 2 with some additional ones like the Cellular Shop, Item Bag, and Boo Repellent, which can be ordered by Toad, Reverse Mushroom, Poison Mushroom, Bowser Phone, and Lucky Lamp, which can be ordered by Baby Bowser, or if you get lucky from the Item Bag or Item Space questionnaire, you can get the rare items, which are the Wacky Wash, Barter Box, Koopa Card, and Lucky Charm. Not only this, but you can carry up to 3 items at once. This allows for better strategy, decision making, and benefits. Although I do feel the 1 item system was better in the second game, which really required critical thinking and even stronger decision making, it makes complete sense as to why they did this, since having all these items and only holding 1 would be kind of ass. Finally, the main thing about Mario Party once again being all about the minigames. And oh boy is there a lot. 71 minigames total, all unique in their own way with no repeats from the first or second game. None of the old formats were removed and any new format added I already covered, like with the Game Guy minigames and the Rare minigames, which act more like bonuses for completing specific challenges. I already mentioned item minigames no longer being board specific, but the same also applies to duel minigames, which I honestly kind of like it as non-board specific. Adds a lot more replay value and doesn't make it feel redundant quickly. And the minigames aren't all that bad. Well, that's not exactly saying the ones from Mario Party 2 are bad by any means, but Vine With Me, End of the Line, TikTok Hop, and Foul Play are all really fun, tense, and fantastic duel minigames on their own. Anything else, like the 4-player games being much more decisive on winners, the even better balance on a lot of 1 vs 3 games, or just chowing down on a fat pizza in 2 vs 2, this is probably the greatest set of minigames in all of Mario Party. And I know that can be said with most of the Mario Party games, but I do really mean it here. And what's even more is that every single song in this game is a blessing created by Allah. In fact, not just the minigame songs, but quite literally every song in this game is absolutely fantastic, and I truly hold to high belief that this is the best Mario Party OST out of them all, peaking higher than that of 2, 5, 6, 8, or even DS. Truly a blessing we deserved. Mario Party 3 is a unique game. By the end of the day, it's still a Mario Party game, and a great one at that, But when you play the first two and then jump to this one, you could definitely see the huge improvements that probably spooked some of the players by it not being just another huge revamped and updated Mario Party 2 in a way. It truly shows the development, improvement, and care put into this game that will hopefully show off powerfully by the fourth game on the Nintendo GameCube.
Oh, also, here's my board rankings and shit. I don't know.
In short, Mario Party did it before Squid Game, fuckers!